So at the end of every January, every single year, Uber and Lyft send out 1099s and tax summaries to rideshare drivers across the country, and we end up getting a whole bunch of questions because the way they do it is a little bit different than maybe what you're used to. And so in today's video, I'm actually going to go over 2017 rideshare taxes for Uber and Lyft drivers. We'll explain how it works, we'll go over all the 1099s, and we'll also give you all the information that you need to go ahead and file your taxes, because although it may seem a little bit confusing at the start, once you watch this video, you should have pretty much all the information you need in order to do your taxes and make sure you do them right. So, like I mentioned, this video is actually relevant for 2017 taxes. So all of the rides you did in 2017, but if you're watching this in the future, in 2018 or 19 or whatever it might be, the concepts we talk about in this video should all be the same. It's just that sometimes from year to year, Uber and Lyft use slightly different requirements when they're sending out 1099s, and sometimes the mileage amounts that they provide are different. But like I said, the general concepts will all be the same. So Uber and Lyft have until January 31st every single year to send out 1099s, and I think Uber actually cut it pretty close this year. They sent out their 1099 at the end of the day on January 31st. So the first thing you probably noticed is that Uber and Lyft both consider themselves third-party payment processors. So what that really means is that they are sort of considering themselves intermediaries, and what that means for you and your 1099K is that if you do over 20,000 rides on Uber and $20,000 and 200 rides on Uber, they're going to send you a 1099K. If you do anything under that, you're not going to get a 1099K. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to pay taxes. Hold on for 1 second. Now, let's also talk about the 1099 Misc, because that's something that you're probably more familiar with. A 1099 Misc is going to be issued by Uber if you did over $600 in referral payments or any type of special promotions or anything like that. So that's really with Uber how the 1099Ks and the 1099 Miscs are going to work. Now, the other thing that you probably got, or if you didn't get, you can actually check on your driver app or go to the tax summary on partners.uber.com, and you're going to navigate to the tax documents, and you're going to look for your tax summary. Now, this is not an official IRS document, but it is something that's provided by Uber, and it's going to give you your gross earnings, and it's also going to give you your expenses and fees and commission, and then it's also going to give you your net payout. Now, the net payout is actually when you add up all the payments that you got from Uber in 2017 to your bank account, that should equal your net payout. So if you want to do a quick sanity check, that's how you would do it. But you don't want to just enter your net payout into your taxes, because even though that would sort of get the same result, it's not the official way that you're going to want to do it. So the way that you're going to want to do it on your taxes is you actually take your gross earnings, right? So that's going to be all the amount, on your 1099K if you got one, and add that to your 1099 Misc, and that should equal your total gross earnings. Now, where it gets a little tricky is that this expenses and fees number, right? So in this example I'm using right here, it says $33,000 in gross earnings, $5,000 in expenses, and so that's going to be all of Uber's booking fees, their commission, and everything. They sort of count that as your gross, but of course you want to subtract that out, otherwise you're going to be paying you're going to be paying taxes on money that you basically didn't earn. So that's the one little caveat, and it's pretty simple that how you can kind of account for it, but that's just make sure that you do that and that you do it right. Otherwise, you're going to end up paying a lot more taxes than you actually owe. Now, Uber also provides on-trip miles, so basically online miles. So these are going to be all the miles when you log onto the app. So you're waiting for a passenger, you're driving to a passenger, and then you're with a passenger, right? Remember, you're online during all of that time, even if you have the destination filter. Now, this is different than what they've provided in the past, and I think it's actually more thorough, but there may be additional miles that you can actually deduct, right? Because if you have your app off during certain times, or even if you're also driving for Lyft, which we'll get into in a minute, right? You might have a lot of crossover. And so that's why I always recommend a third-party mileage tracking app. Actually, you can see right here, we recommend Stride Drive. I think they just renamed it Stride Tax. So we'll leave a link, and you can sign up with our affiliate link if you're interested in checking that out. So basically, once you have your 1099K, your 1099 Misc from Uber, or use your gross earnings from your tax summary, that's the total that you're going to put down for income on your Schedule C. Now, the Schedule C is a document that when you go to do your taxes, you have your 1040, and then you also have your Schedule C since you're a sole proprietorship, and that basically is saying that you had a business during the year, so you have to file a Schedule C, and all you really have to do is enter that gross earnings number and enter your expenses, and you subtract one from the other, and you get your net, right? And so if you use a tax software, which we'll get into below, it'll take care of all that for you, and it's actually pretty easy. Now, let's talk about Lyft for a little while, because the way they do their 1099s is a little different. So first off, 1099 Misc, remember, this probably doesn't apply to a ton of drivers, but if you did earn over $600 in bonuses, mentor rides, whatever it might be, special promotions, then you would have got a 1099 Misc from Lyft. Now, unlike Uber though, Lyft actually sends a 1099K to all drivers who earned at least $600 in gross ride receipts. So again, it's that gross number. So basically, if you did any decent number of rides for Lyft, you should have got a 1099K this year. And you can see here in this example from one of our contributors, Joe, he did total ride payments. You can see this gross ride payments, $28,000, and then they take that Lyft commission and subtract it out to get the $23,594. So that's basically how you calculate that. And you can also see that Lyft actually provides in-ride miles and also out-of-ride miles. So if you combine those, that would be sort of the same as the number that Uber's providing, and that's going to be all of your online miles. So, you can sort of see that these companies do things slightly differently, I think probably to try and confuse you, but definitely make sure that you stay on top of it. And you can actually access this information if you go to lyft.com and sign in and then go to tax information. You'll be able to actually see all this or directly from the driver app. So definitely that's really what you want to keep in mind. That 1099 is what trips up people sometimes, but really regardless of whether you get a 1099 or not, you still have to pay taxes on all the money you earn, and you're going to take that gross number that Uber or Lyft presents to you and then make sure you subtract out all of their expenses and fees, and then that net number that you're paying taxes on, that net number should be the same as all of the sum of the money that came into your bank account from that company, right? Hopefully that makes sense, because there's also some additional deductions that we're going to talk about in a second here, and those would be on top of those expenses and fees and anything like that. So if you did drive for Lyft and Uber, which obviously I recommend, it's kind of a no-brainer. You're just going to combine the gross income from Uber and combine the gross income for Lyft and sort of think about that Schedule C as one business. Your business is being a rideshare driver, so you would combine the gross income, combine the expenses to get that total net income. So hopefully that makes sense. And then, as far as deductions, we won't get into all of them, but really the big one that you want to think about is for your vehicle, right? The standard mileage rate is what probably is going to be most beneficial to a lot of drivers. And for 2017, the standard mileage rate is 53.5 cents per mile. And remember, we've done videos where, most people's cars should not cost that much to operate. So this is a really beneficial deduction, and you really want to do a great job of tracking all your mileage, because you actually save a ton of money, not only from taking the deduction, which actually, is representative of some of your costs, but, if you're driving a super fuel efficient vehicle that doesn't need a ton of maintenance, your actual cost may be closer to 20 to 30 cents per mile. So you're really actually offsetting a lot of your income, and it can be pretty beneficial. Now, like I said, Uber provides the total number of miles you drove while you're online in your tax summary, and Lyft also provides the same number, but via, the on-trip and off-trip miles, which you can kind of combine in order to get the same number. But I definitely still recommend a third-party tracking app like a Stride Drive, which is completely free for Android and iOS, and that way you can sort of have your own account, so you don't have to rely on Uber and Lyft, and you can potentially sort of get more mileage deductions that way too. So definitely recommend that you use a solid app to do that. And the other option too, you can use the actual expense method instead of taking the standard mileage rate. That's a little bit more complex, but over time you would need to use a product like QuickBooks Self-Employed or track all of the expenses of your vehicle. The nice thing about a QuickBooks Self-Employed is you can actually compare the two. So if you have a more expensive to operate car, you can see which deduction will be better. And then of course there are a ton of other deductions that you can go for, like car washes, cell phone use. Now some of these you have to deduct, you're only allowed to deduct the percentage that you use for business. So if you have a cell phone and use it 90% of the time for business, you can do that. For me, for example, I use a GoPro in my car, and sometimes to record videos or sometimes just as a dash cam, and I use it probably about 90% of the time for business. But then when I go travel, I also use it when I travel, and so it's maybe 10% personal time, yet I get to deduct 90% of the cost of that GoPro and still use it for my travel. So you always want to look for those sort of shared personal business expenses. That's a nice one. And just keep in mind that allocation. Now, If you're wondering about actually filing their taxes, we have this cool graphic here that tells you we surveyed over 1,100 drivers to see how they're filing their taxes, and 50% actually say that they do taxes themselves, 32% say that they hire a CPA, and then 12% go to an in-person tax chain like an H&R Block or something like that, 5% other. So if you have any type of complicated situations or scenarios, or frankly, if you think that if you're aggressive, you want to be sort of aggressive with your taxes and talk to a CPA and sort of run through the numbers there, definitely I have a CPA that I recommend, Joe Starzik, and we've got a link right here, and he gives a special deal to rideshare drivers because he's been doing this for a few years. We have a few links in this article to guides that he's done, and maybe I'll even interview him in the future so he can share some more knowledge. But he's worked with a ton of rideshare drivers. If you're more the do-it-yourself type, which is totally fine, honestly, I don't think that being a rideshare driver and doing your taxes is all that difficult. TurboTax will really walk you through it, and just make sure that you select the right version of TurboTax, and you can actually go ahead and we've got an affiliate link right here if you want to go ahead and use our affiliate link to purchase TurboTax, and you can get the right edition. H&R Block online software is another good one. But, basically kind of to wrap things up, that 1099K and 1099 Misc is an issue that some drivers often have to figure out and are a little bit surprised by. But if you go to that tax summary page, that's going to give you pretty much all the information you need, and you'll be able to file your taxes from there. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. Leave a comment below, leave a comment on this article, or just send me an email directly, harry@therideshareguy.com. I know taxes can be a little bit daunting and you're a little bit scared or nervous, but I'm here to help you guys out and answer anything you might have. We've been doing this for a long time, and we've seen a lot of different questions, so I think we'll definitely be able to help you. And I also want to say one more thing. We're actually going to be doing a YouTube Live very soon, and it's going to be all about taxes. So any questions that we're not able to get to, or that you think are a little bit complex, you can actually ask them on our next YouTube Live. And the best way to find out about that is going to be to subscribe to the channel and make sure that you turn notifications on, because we typically do these Tuesday afternoons towards the end of the month around 5 p.m. Pacific. So definitely make sure that you stay tuned for that, and stay safe out there. All right, take care.